Hello everyone, myself Sanat Kumar Swai, Assistant Professor at Vedang Institute of Technology, Bhubaneswar, and hope you are all doing well. And today's class will be discussing about the concept of leadership in organizational behavior. In the previous classes, we have already discussed about leadership um, and what exactly is the concept of leadership and why we need to understand about the leadership qualities. What are the concept of leadership in the organizational behavior? We'll be going through a few slides and we'll be looking at various aspects of leadership, how it impacts on an organization, and we'll be going through a few examples as well, particularly in the Indian context, and how does it affect the leadership, the role of leadership affect the organizational structure basically. Okay, so yeah, so before getting into the various slides, we have to understand about the introduction, like what exactly is leadership, why we need to understand about leadership. Okay, so as you can see in the introduction, leadership is a critical element in organizational behavior. Okay, it influences how an organization actually function. Okay, what are the growth and how we need to adapt to various kinds of environment which is going to be change. Okay, in the change, you see when there is an organization, you see there are a lot of changes that may happen in the due course of time. So how we are going to adapt to those kind of changes, okay, in the changing environment. So these the leadership qualities, it influences. Okay, so if you're looking at the Indian context basically, then what happens that leadership often combines traditional values. See, in India you see there are like multicultural. Indian societies are multicultural. So you see that there's a blend of traditional values, okay, with modern principles. Okay, so that may not be found in various MNCs, multinational companies, but particularly the organizations which has an Indian leadership. Okay, so you'll find that there's a blend of tradition with the modern principles. Okay, right. So definition of leadership. What do you mean by leadership? What is the definition exactly of leadership? Okay, so you see, leadership is basically a influencing factor. Okay, is a factor which influences and it also guides the people who are working in an organization or any situations to achieve a common goal. Okay, what is the common goal over here? The common goal is like to get the organizational goal. Okay, the organizational goal is definitely the common goal of the employees as well as the leadership. Okay, so right, so it involves establishing a clear vision, sharing that vision with others. Okay, so there definitely when there is a organization, so that organization has got a certain visions. Okay, certain goals. Okay, so that vision has to be shared with others. Okay, see, when you're joining an organization, you do not know what are the visions of that particular organizations. Okay, though that is a different thing when you get to know about the visions or the structure of the organization through internet. Okay, through by browsing on it, but you don't have that first-hand experience of what kind of vision that organization holds on. So that is the task, or that is the role of a leader, a proper leader, that vision has to be shared firsthand with the employees who are joining that particular organization. Okay, and also you have to provide various informations, okay, various knowledge and various methods to realize that vision. See, now how do you need to realize that vision? When you join in any organization, what exactly happens is that you feel that yes, you are just an employee and you are there to work for a paycheck. Okay, there's nothing more to know about it. But when when you feel that you are a part of that organization, when you feel that yes, I have that vision and I have to achieve that vision. Okay, as because that's a common goal, that's a that particular goal or that vision of that organization, that's a common goal and which we need to achieve. Okay, then some way there's a alignment with that organization. Okay, so you feel to be a part of that organization, and definitely you try to contribute to the growth of that particular organization. Okay, so what happens is that there's a proper coordination. The proper coordination has to have with the employees as well as the leaders, the leadership qualities. Okay, as well as balancing the conflicting interest of all members or the stakeholder. You see, we cannot say that when there is an organization, okay, there are people from different backgrounds, people from different cultural backgrounds, they come together. Okay, so definitely what happens is that there is certain conflict that may arises. We're not saying that that will arise, but definitely that may arises in various organizations. Now, how you need to balance those conflicting interests of that, of the members of that organizations or various kinds of stakeholders of that organization, is the quality or the role which a leadership plays. Okay, so this is all about the definition of leadership. Now, importance of leadership in organizational behavior. So what is the importance, why we need to understand about the leadership, the importance of leadership in organizational behavior? You see, the first one is vision and direction. Okay, so you need to have a vision. The leaders, okay, the leaders who are leading that particular organization, they should have a vision. Okay, and they should have a sense of direction, where we are going to head, how we are going to head our staff members or our employees. Okay, how we need to move ahead, which direction we need to move ahead, what should be our vision. Okay, and also what is the purpose of our organization. We have started an organization, what is the purpose of our organization? Okay, so there should be a clear vision and direction of that, of the leaders who are leading those organizations. Now, the second thing is motivation and morale. Okay, now what do you mean by motivation and morale? You see, in all the organizations, you will see that there are leaders. Okay, without a leader, an organization cannot run, right? Now, if there is an organization, then definitely there is a leader. And if there is a leader, then definitely there will be a lot of employees working for that particular organization. Now, how their employees are going to work for that organization? Why do you see, after your studies, definitely you will try to join certain organization, you will try to get a job, right? So when you are joining certain organization, what motivates you? Why do you want to join any organization? When you start searching for any kind of job, what captivates you that yes, I'm going to join this particular organization? Why? There should be certain motivation. And what are the motivation? The first motivation, I believe, that most of the employees which they think is what will be the pay structure. If you're going to get a good pay structure, then that motivates you automatically, right? Next is moral. What kind of moral boost-ups you are going to get from that organization? You see, though there are organizations where you get good motivation, okay, but there is lack of morale, right? So that becomes difficult for the employees to work in that particular organization or to get motivated. Okay, so that is the role of the leadership, that they have to have proper effective motivation and morale. They need to boost the employees morale and motivation, and that is a very important uh, um, what leadership quality of any kind of leaders. Okay, next is, as we have already discussed, conflict resolution. You see, when there is an organization, definitely it is bound to have certain conflicts, maybe with the among the inside the organization or outside the organization. Okay, with the stakeholders or without the stakeholders, there has to be certain conflict. See, when there is a clash of certain interest, then conflict starts. So now, what is the role of the leadership? To resolve, or to um, mediate. There has to be certain mediator in the conflict resolution. Okay, that, as I've said, that may be within the organization or that may be outside the organization. Okay, so that is also one of the leadership qualities of the leaders. Okay, so we need to, that is the importance of leadership. Next is change management. You see, when you are heading certain organization, there has to be certain change. Okay, maybe from the IT perspective, maybe from the management perspective. You see, um, the most common change which the employees they face is that when the leaders change, when there's a change of guard, means maybe the company has been sold out to somebody else, okay, or that has been leased out to somebody else. So what happens, all of a sudden the employees they face a dilemma, okay, in the performance, in their performance. Okay, so that's a, I mean, there are a lot of changes. Okay, this is one of the example which I've said. There may be certain changes like IT changes. You want to change the IT infrastructure of your organization. Okay, or maybe certain leaders are going to be replaced. Okay, or maybe the working style has to be changed. Okay, the culture has to be changed. So there are a lot of changes which happens in the organization. Now, how are you going to accept those changes? Because see, nobody likes change, but change is inevitable. Whether you like or you don't like, change is inevitable. That has to happen. Okay. So what happens is that is the role of the leaders to facilitate and manage those kinds of changes which happens in the organization. Okay. They have to explain, they have to motivate to their employees that why this change is essential. Okay. Why do we fear change? Everybody fears the unknown. But if we are aware of what is going to happen after the change, then we may not be, or maybe the fear is going to be minimized. Okay. So that is also one of the importance of the leadership. Okay. Next is performance improvement. How we need to improve the performance, maybe in a group or maybe individual performance. Okay. And subsequently the organizational performance. So how we are going to influence the organization to improve the performance and improve the productivity and efficiency of our organization. So that is also a part of the leadership quality. Okay. So these are the importance. I mean, see, these are the importance of leadership in organizational behavior. Okay. Now, leadership styles. Okay. Now, what are the leadership styles? Okay, you see, there are a lot of managers working for any organization. Now, what are the styles of their working? Okay, so the first one is autocratic leadership. Now, what do you mean by autocratic leadership? You must have seen in various organizations that certain leaders they don't take the inputs of others. Okay, what they do is that they make the changes themselves. They take the decisions themselves. They don't take the inputs from others. Okay, so those kinds of leadership are known as autocratic leadership. Okay, they are autocratic in nature. Okay, and uh, these kinds of autocratic leadership, where you are going to find, particularly in a traditional family. Okay, if you are talking about the Indian perspective, you see the traditional family owned. Okay, for example, there's an organization which is a family owned organization or a family owned business. So what happens in those kinds of organizations is that whatever the head of the family or the head of the or organization, that is the full and final decisions. Okay, nobody is going to have a say in his or her decisions. Okay, so that kind of decisions are known as autocratic leadership or autocratic decisions maker. The second one is democratic leadership. Now, what happens in democratic, as you all know, democratic means everybody working for that organization has something to say or certain inputs to give, that we have to, okay, fine, the head of the authority or head of the leadership, they make certain decisions, but whether that decision I have something to say, being a part of that organization, I have some certain things to give my input. Okay, so what happens that becomes a democratic leadership, where everybody gives their leadership. Ultimately, the decision is being taken by the head of the organization, but um, some or the other way, everybody has something to say. Okay, so what happened? Example is like Infosys. Okay, so the Infosys founder is, who is the Infosys founder? Narayan Murthy. Okay, so he's the founder and the owner of Infosys. So what he does, that he has encouraged the collaborative decisions in his company. Collaborative decision means everybody has something to say. All right. What do you think? Whether that is right or that is wrong? I believe that democratic leaderships are pretty much better than autocratic leadership or something else. Okay. Why? Because see, in the democratic leadership, you will see that everybody has certain things to say, and when you have certain things to say, or your voice has been heard, then what happens that you, some or the other way, you think that yes, I am a part of that organization, and you have a we feeling, okay, with that organization. So I believe that democratic leadership is pretty much better than other leadership styles. Okay, next. Transformational leadership. Now, what do you mean by transformational leadership? Transformational leadership, see, when there is an organization, what happens that organizations are not for profit. All the, most of the organizations are for profit making. Okay, they're not like, apart from few organizations, most of the organization, they are not for charity, they are for profit making. Okay, so what happens is that when there is a decision making process or the leadership style, what they do is that they try to make as much profit as possible. But there are certain leadership styles, what they do is that they inspire and motivate employees to exceed their own self-interest for the good of the organization. Okay, what happens that, okay, that's fine that you have your own personal interest, but you have to come out of your own personal interest, okay, for the good of the organization. And what they do is that those leaders, they set an example, okay, that yes, though I have my own personal interest, but I have to keep aside my interest and I have to think for the good of the organization. Okay, so here the example is Ratan Tata's leadership in Tata Group. Okay, where he give a lot of importance to various kinds of innovative ideas and various ethical practices. You see, most of the organizations, they do not follow ethical practices. I'm not saying all the organizations, but most of the organizations, by hook or crook, they believe that because that is a profit making organization, we have to extract as much profit as possible. Yes or no? You must be aware about the Mukesh Ambani's son is going to, I believe he has already been married, okay, recently. And his company, Jio, okay, they have uh, they have increased the tariff prices of various schemes. Do you think that that is an ethical way of increasing the price at this point of time? I believe most of the people, they will agree that yes, in this point of time, I don't believe that that should be increased, as because there's a marriage going on. They may have increased at a later stage, that is a different scenario, but at this point of time, when they are spending thousands of crores, like roughly around 5,000 crores will be spent for the marriage ceremony of Mukesh's son, and they have increased the price. So I don't believe that that is a certain ethical. At this point of time, this is not ethical, I believe. Okay, that could have been done a bit later. So you see, there are a lot of companies, there are a lot of organizations, they don't follow the ethical practices. Okay, but on contrary, Tata Group, which uh, puts more importance to various innovations and various ethical practices. Okay, so that is known as transformational leadership. Next, transactional leadership. Now, what do you mean by transactional leadership? Transactional leadership, transaction, from transaction comes transactional. Okay, so what happens in this kind of leadership, that the leaders, they focus on the role of supervision organization and group performance. Okay, so they normally supervise. They normally supervise, and they normally um, um, what they do is that group performance has been given more importance in various kinds of organization. Okay, so this kind of transactional leadership is where you can get this kinds of transactional leadership, particularly in the IT sector. Most of the IT sectors in India, you will find that they follow the transactional way of leadership. Okay, next, leadership theory. Leadership theory, the first one is trait theory. So what do you mean by trait theory? You see that everybody has got certain kinds of inherent qualities. Okay, they possess inherent qualities in them which makes them a leader. They have got certain leadership qualities within them. Okay, you must have seen, maybe in your neighborhood also you will see, maybe in your family you will see that, okay, that they have got certain inherent qualities. Okay, that yes, I have certain leadership qualities. Okay, so that is known as trait theory. Okay, um, for example, various kinds of leaders are there. For example, Mahatma Gandhi, they are often cited for their inherent qualities of integrity and vision. They have got a vision. Okay, in families also you will see that certain siblings, they have certain visions for the family. In villages you will see that they have certain visions for their villages or for the communities. Okay, so those are known as trait theories. Okay, next is behavioral theory. Behavioral theory is that from behavior comes behavioral. Okay, so behavior is like, um, we keep aside their qualities or traits. Okay, but we focuses on the behavior. You see, in certain organizations you will see that the behavior of certain leaders are very rude. The behaviors of certain leaders are very much soft. They're very soft spoken, they're very rude. Okay, so they, their qualities may be different. Okay, the way they perform, that is different, but the way they behave, that is known as behavioral theory, and that also impacts a lot. You see, for example, there's an ex-manager in a certain organization, and you see that particular manager is very soft spoken. Okay, is very soft spoken, and so what happens normally is that people working under that particular manager, they tend to attract more towards that manager. They tend to follow more to that, or to that manager. They feel like a like sense of belonging to that organization just because of that particular manager. They feel comfortable to express their views. On the contrary, there are certain leaders, certain managers, they may have various good qualities, managerial qualities, leadership qualities, but they are very rude. Okay, they may not speak politely. They're not grounded to earth. So what happens is that creates a negative impact on the employees working for that organization. Okay. So if you're looking at the example of in the Indian perspective, we'll see that there are Indian managers who adopt participative leadership style by engaging employees in regular feedback. So you see, when you are a participatory leadership styles means you participate with your employees, okay, by engaging them in various kinds of um, um, feedback sessions or various kinds of you see training sessions or whatsoever. Okay, so that impacts the organization a lot. Okay, so that is known as the behavioral theory. Next, contingency theory. Now what do you mean by contingency theory? Contingency theory is that you see, in contingency theory, that proposes that the effectiveness of leadership style is contingent. Contingent means, what do you mean by contingent? It's contingency stock. Okay, we stock something, and that is known as contingent. We don't know about the future, what is going to happen. Okay, we may face the worst, we may face the best. Okay, so we have to be well prepared. Okay, about the unseen. Okay, so that is known as contingency. Basically, that proposes the effectiveness of leadership style is contingent upon the situation. So what the situation will be at a later stage, we never know. That may be better, that may be worse. Okay, so we have to be prepared, well prepared for that particular situation. So that is not as contingency. Okay, so for example, during the economic liberation in India in the 1990s, leaders who adapted to the new market dynamics succeeded. So it's a very long history that during the time of 1990s, you see, when there was an economic liberation, so certain leaders who tried to adapt to those new market dynamics, they normally succeeded. But the managers or the leaders who didn't adapt to those uh, dynamics, they were grounded and they couldn't succeed. Okay, so this is all about the contingency theory. Now, situational leadership theory. What do you mean by situation leadership theory? The term itself says that situation leadership, like what, based on the situation, what is your behavior, what is your style of working based on the situation. Okay, that is known as situational leadership. So what happens is that leaders should adopt their style based on the maturity of the followers and the complexity of the task. Means, see, when you are leading an organization, when you are heading an organization and you are there, you have a certain base of followers, you have to understand their maturity, whether they are able to follow you, whether they are able to understand certain situation, certain task. That is up to you. You have to make them understand. That is your task as a manager, as a leader. You have, that is your task to make your follower understand. Okay, second thing is that the complexity of the task. What do you mean by complexity of the task? Complexity means how tough or how what complex the task is, whether that can be achieved easily or that can be that is not easily achievable. There has to be certain strategies which need to be followed to accomplish the task. So that is your responsibility being a manager or being a leader. Okay, so now for example, Indian entrepreneurs often switch between directive and supportive leadership based on team experience and project. So what happens is that based on the project needs, when there is a project, based on that projects, whether they are going to direct you, whether they are going to support you, okay, whether you'll find leaders who are who normally gives the direction or who normally gives the support. Okay, based on the project and what kind of needs the projects requires. Okay, so this is also one of the example. Okay, next, leadership in the Indian context. So how the leadership performs in the Indian context, in the Indian scenario. Okay, the first one is influence of culture. You see, India is a blend in the Indian society is a blend of culture, a pot of melting pot of culture. Okay, so what happened, you will see that there are a lot of cultural values which comes together. Okay, communities are there, there are various relationships are there. Okay, and also there are various social harmony. You have to maintain the social harmony as well. So all this comes into play during the time of leadership. Okay, so what happens is that the leaders in the Indian organization, they might prioritize employees' welfare and long-term relation. So what happens that you may not find in the various multinational organizations in certain companies, but companies which are operating in India, you will see that there are certain employee welfare. Okay, they might the company or the leadership, they may focus on the employees welfare. Okay, and they will try to retain, how we can retain, like CRM. Okay, CRM, what do you mean by CRM? Customer relationship management. And ERM means employees retention management, how you are going to retain your employee. Okay, so that they will stay with you for a longer period of time. So that, why do we do that? Because that is the influence of culture. Okay, particularly in the Indian scenario. Okay, next is ethical standards leadership. What do you mean by ethical leadership? Okay, so we have to understand what is ethical and what is unethical, how we are going to lead our organization ethically. Okay, so that meets the highest ethical standards and integrity of our organization. Okay, so that is also one of the leadership quality in the Indian context. Okay, for example, Abdul Kalam, who was led by example with his ethical conduct and leadership, he was one of the exemplary leader who always showed the ethical conduct and humility. Okay, no other leaders have been born as of now, who was like Abdul Kalam, whose ethical conduct and humility was at par uh, with others. Okay. Next is adaptive leadership. Now, what do you mean by adaptive leadership? Adaptive means to adopt. Okay, to adapt. Okay, so what happens is that, particularly in the Indian context, you will see that these kinds of leaderships are like they adapt to various kinds of situation um, uh, which are diverse. I mean, okay, we may not know what kind of situation or what kind of challenges we are going to face in the future. So what we have to adapt to those kind of challenges. Okay, for example, like managing a multilingual and multicultural workforce. You see, in India, as I have already said, that is a melting pot of culture. Okay, cultural influence plays a very important role. So what happens when you are a if you are, you have to adapt, you have to have an adaptive leadership quality, because you need to understand, though multilingual, because people, they may speak various kinds of languages. Okay, and a multicultural workforce. Okay, they may come from various kinds of different cultures. So how you need to adapt and how you need to manage. Okay, that is the main important leadership quality in the Indian context. Okay, right. Challenges in leadership. Now, what are the challenges which you're going to face in the leadership? The first one is managing diversity. Okay, definitely when you are in the leadership role, you have to understand the diverse culture, diverse workforce which are going to work in your organization. That may be from linguistic, that may be cultural, okay, that may be regional diversity, okay, that may be anything. Okay, they may speak multiple of languages, they have different cultural backgrounds. Okay, they may have regional diversity. Okay, various kinds of people coming into organizations, so you have to address all those issues. Okay, so you have to manage diversity in a better way. Next is balancing tradition and modernity. If you're operating, if your organization is operating in any Indian scenario, so what happens that you have to have a blend of your traditional values with the modern values. Okay, modern practices which you are going to practice in today's contemporary society. So there has to be a balancing act. Okay, you have to balance the traditional and the modern. Okay, so that is also one of the, that becomes very challenge and problematic. Okay, particularly in the Indian scenario. Okay, next is global competition. So you see, you have to manage the diversity as well, you have to manage the tradition and modernity as well, and alongside you have to also manage the global competition you are going to face. Okay, so competing with the global workforce becomes very much difficult along with this too. Okay, so these are the challenges which normally the leadership faces in the Indian scenario. Next. Okay, so with this we have come to the end of the slide. Okay, so what we have learned so far is that leadership in organizational behavior is multifaceted and context dependent. Okay, so it is a diversified. Okay, and context dependent means depending on the context, which context we are going to look at. Okay, next is, in India, effective leadership blends traditional values, as I have already said that in Indian context particularly, the organization which you are performing in the Indian context, they have to blend with the traditional values with the modern practices. Okay, and that becomes extremely challenging and difficult for them to go through. But anyways, with the right leadership qualities, the leaders, they can overcome. Okay, next is understanding various leadership styles and theories and adapting them to the specific organization. So there are various leadership styles, various kinds of theories. Okay, so how you are going to adapt to your to various kinds of theories and various kinds of leadership styles, particular to the organizational context. What is your organizational context? Okay, so based on your organizational context, what kind of leadership styles has to be applied, what kind of theories has to be applied. Okay, so you need to understand those styles. Okay, so because that is extremely crucial and important for the success of the organization. Okay, so yes, with this we have come to the conclusion, and I believe all of you have been able to understand what exactly is the leadership, the concept of leadership in organizational behavior. why is it important, okay, particularly in the Indian scenario. Okay, thank you very much for your time. If you have any doubt, you can just jot down your doubt. Okay, thank you very much.